This is the Double Doink Dynasty League podcast with Boyer, Andy, and your host, Tyler.
It's impossible.
Season's going to end on a double doink.
Welcome back to Double Doink Dynasty. We are two of your three performance-enhancing dads. Boyer was sick on Tuesday for the podcast. Still not feeling great, so Boyer, get better. We're looking to have you back next week. Andy, we're going to jump into this, the two of us.
Let's do it.
So let's start with trades. We finally got some of these, and I think Colin Nolan was just trying to make trades so he could make airtime because he knew that this podcast was coming up. Because some of his trades weren't great. Let's start.
How it's been.
Let's start about a month back. Underhill and Colin Mattoon made a trade. We didn't cover this in the last podcast, so we're going to cover it here. It was a while back, so some of you might have forgotten. Colin Mattoon gives up Mack Jones and a 23 third to Underhill to get a 23 first and a 23 second. So essentially, Mack Jones just went for the same price Trey Lance went, except for that third round pick that went back the other way. And Mack Jones was drafted in the third round, doesn't have huge upside as of now because of the team is gone.
By the way, Underhill has Patrick freaking Mahomes.
Right. So just in case he needs a backup quarterback, that first and second guy.
I guess I was not thrilled with this. It's a very clear overpay. People are going to overpay, and that's fine. But Jesus, did it have to be Mattoon turning his late third round draft pick into a first and second round pick after he's already made all these acquisitions and given up a fair number of picks to add guys like Chubb and Lockett and Mike Evans at this point when the trade was made? Like, he had to have been at least at the point of considering, like, well, maybe I shouldn't move any more draft capital because I'm going to be looking like Colin Nolan if I keep going this rate. And in comes Underhill saying, I got your back, buddy. Why don't you just go ahead and give me that quarterback that you and I both don't plan on ever playing, and I'll give you a first and a second rounder for him. I was not happy.
So with that, like, I got Trey Lance for first and a second.
And I thought that was kind of steep, but at least he was the 8th overall pick in our draft. He wasn't third round 11th pick.
Right.
And he's got fantasy upside. Like, even if he's not a good quarterback, Trey Lance is a guy who could rush for 800 yards as a quarterback. He's got a good team. Exactly. And the Patriots don't have any of that. Mack Jones doesn't have any of that. And there was no reason for this price to be what it was. If Underhill had given a second round pick for him, I think that would have been fine. But a first and a second is just asinine.
I could have even got behind maybe a second in 23 and a second in 24, just because it's so you could push the trade out further and further.
Mm-hmm.
But 23 is supposed to be a real good draft class, and giving up a first and a second, I don't know. All right. Anyway, we've exhausted that one. Let's move on.
All right.
So Colin Nolan now gives Aaron Rodgers, Darren Waller, and Damian Williams to receive OBJ, Teddy B, Mike Gesicki, a 22 first, a 22 second, and a 23 second. So essentially a running back, tight end, quarterback from Nolan for a tight end, quarterback, wide receiver, and then a handful of picks. Rodgers probably could have gone for a first and second by himself.
Even if it's just a first.
Right.
Like a lot of guys have their quarterbacks figured out. Underhill thinks he's being cute, locking down 5 of them, but most of us have a Russell Wilson, a Justin Herbert, a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson. Like there's enough guys out there that Aaron Rodgers might not have fetched that much, but even if he only gets you a second rounder, Waller's worth more than a first. Williams is worth more than a second when he's going to be starting for 5 weeks. So go ahead, keep going.
So Rodgers, let's call it quarterback for quarterback. Rodgers for Teddy B. Rodgers is clearly better. Let's throw a first with Teddy B. Right? All right, yeah. Teddy B and a first for Rodgers.
Sure.
Okay.
Fair.
Now you've got, let's go tight end for tight end. Waller for Gesicki. Waller and Gesicki, and let's call it that second and third. What? Waller should fetch you Gesicki and a first and a second, probably. He's 27. He's got another 3 or 4 years of solid play. I don't know about that. You got rid of Waller for dirt cheap, it looks like. And then not only that, you've got Damian Williams, which is a 4 to 5 week starter minimum right now for OBJ. That's not necessarily a young, spry wide receiver at this point. I know some people like OBJ. I am not an OBJ guy. It's been noted multiple times. But if I could have gotten Damian Williams for OBJ straight up right now, when running backs are hard to come by, with how deep these rosters are, I'd move an OBJ for Damian Williams in a heartbeat. For a 4 to 5 week starting running back.
If you're trying to contend for this year, if you're the guy who just lost David Montgomery like Burns is, yeah, that's an easy pull the trigger.
And that should have been a Burns. You lost Montgomery. I want more than just OBJ straight up
here. Yeah.
And go ahead.
I'm just looking at it, and one of the things that I don't know that some of these people, Colin Nolan, are taking into account when they're making these trades is like Burns is 3-1, and you just gave him Rodgers and Waller and unfucked his hurt running back for him for the next month. So you're going to keep Burns doing pretty good in what I think all of us agree is still a pretty weak division. So even if Burns isn't on the same level as Mattoon, I don't think anybody is, but you're pushing Burns into probably the top 3 or 4, probably a playoff team, which means that he's going to have a bottom 3 or 4 first and second round pick this year, which is what you just got. You helped those picks be worse by making this trade, which fine, like it's still draft capital, but with the number of pieces that you gave up, looking at Waller as a guy who you could have be your tight end for the next 5 years and be very happy with that. I think that there's at least one more pick that you could have gotten out of that. Maybe that's the 23rd, the pick in 2023 being a first instead of a second. But I'm not excited about OBJ. I'm not at all excited about Teddy Bridgewater. Gesicki could be a guy. He's only 26. He was drafted in 2018.
This is his contract year, though, so he could be out of Miami, and who the heck knows what happens.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not like Miami's doing him any favors either. So who knows? Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's not. But it's a clear downgrade from Waller to Gesicki, and then losing a guy like Rodgers and a guy who just fell into value in Damian Williams. I feel like he could have gotten more back for this. It's not the worst trade I've seen, though.
Right. So I've talked to Nolan a little bit about this, not much, but the reason he felt he could move Rodgers, from what he had told me, Colin Nolan, I'm sure you'll correct me when you hear this, but the fact that he said, oh, Justin Fields is the starter going forward, I have a quarterback. Justin Fields is not top 10 fantasy points in a game yet. Yeah, maybe he gets better as the year goes on.
I mean, that doesn't matter, right? If he's selling Waller, if he's selling Rodgers, he's not playing for this year. Fields doesn't have to be good for him this year. if you feel like Fields is your guy for the next 5 years, fine. Like you're not counting on him to carry your team this year. That's not going to happen. But that's not how he's playing for this to happen. Right. You've at least got a warm body because Underhill has the rest of them.
I have a lot of quarterbacks on my team right now too.
That's fair. I have one.
I have 2 rookies though because I traded for Lance, and then I got Wentz, that isn't even really a quarterback. All right, so let's move on. Burnsy, good trade on that. Good work, man.
Yeah, Nolan, I like to see Burns going for it.
Yeah, although I don't because I wanted a wide receiver from him. All right, anyway.
I would too.
The next one, Colin Nolan up again. Colin Nolan gives away D-Hop and gives D-Hop to Colin Mattoon, which has already bought everybody else. And Colin Mattoon gives up Juju, Michael Carter, a 23 first and a 23 third. Give me a quick rundown on how you feel about this one.
Honestly, I think this one's good. Hopkins, Juju's a guy at this point. I'm not jazzed about him. He's whatever. But I mean, Carter.
About Juju in a minute.
Yeah, Carter could be something. He's at least got that potential. He's a rookie this year. He's on a team that might be in the process of getting better. And then you got a first and a third round pick out of Hopkins, who's 29 this year and not getting a ton of targets. The Cardinals offense is looking like it's pretty well rounded. Kirk's doing stuff. Green's doing stuff. The rookie whose name I keep forgetting is doing stuff. Rondale Moore. Thank you. Like there's a lot of mouths to feed there, and Hopkins is going to have his games, but I don't know that it's going to be that 10, 12 point baseline like we've come to rely on in the past. So I think this is a very good example of selling at peak value on an aging veteran who still has a lot of value to a contender like Colin Mattoon. Yeah, Colin Mattoon's not starting Carter. Colin Mattoon's not starting Juju, and he will play Hopkins, and Hopkins will make his team better this year. So to provide some context, and this is another instance of, in my opinion, not understanding the pick value. I was trying to talk to Colin Nolan about Hopkins because I've stumbled into being 2-2 and figured if I could add a piece, then I can keep myself afloat long enough to decide if I want to play for this year. So the conversations that I had with Colin Nolan revolved around effectively Chenault or Ruggs and a first and a third round pick. And the difference here being that the first round pick that we were talking about was Colin Nolan's first round pick in 2022. So not only is it a year sooner, but the difference between Colin Nolan's pick in this upcoming rookie draft and Colin Mattoon's pick even a year from now is probably going to be at least 10 spots. So the difference between the number 1, number 2 overall pick in the draft and the number 11, number 12 pick in a rookie draft is pretty significant. If you look at Naji and Chase versus Sermon,
the quarterback run that went late in the first round.
Yeah.
Rondale Moore, Bateman. I mean,
so
I'm taking
Terrace Marshall
all day over.
Right. Chase or Terrace Marshall. Yeah. Which one do you want? Like, that's a huge drop. So that's like, you got to have a little bit of foresight there to like have a gut feel on where these picks are going to fall based on the team that it's coming from. And there's a really dramatic gap in the value there. I'm not saying that Chenault and a first and a third should be considered over Michael Carter and a first and a third because running backs are valuable. Michael Carter's probably got a lot more upside than Laviska Chenault does. So I think the deal is fine. But if you're looking at selling, he sold for picks that are 2 years down the road, not next year. So is this team going to be bad next year and you can't even turn it around? Because that sucks. Like, you just sold Waller, you just sold Rodgers, you just sold Hopkins. Sucks. Like you don't even have any picks next year to do something about it. So that's a very long-term vision in my eyes. But
yeah. So then let's talk about Nolan turning Juju into Kenny Gainwell with Andrew Leasack. I thought that was a freaking great move by Nolan. I mean, so essentially he moved D-Hop to get Kenny Gainwell, Michael Carter, and those picks because he moved Juju for Gainwell, which I think Gainwell is by far the better asset there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not super big on Gainwell, but if you look at dynasty upside, Gainwell's got it and Juju's doesn't. I think Juju's just a guy at this point. He's going to be 800 or 900 yards and 5 touchdowns a year unless something dramatic changes. He's not going to get much better than that. There's better receivers than him on the team now. So
I think Juju would have been better off leaving Pittsburgh and going anywhere. Baltimore, New Orleans, somewhere that he would have had a chance to be the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, instead of sitting with the wide receiver 3. Especially when they got Naji Harris, they got Pat Freiermuth coming up. Juju's just not. I don't know. I'm not high on him. Big Ben ends up disappearing after this year. Even if he plays again next year, he's getting older. He'll be 40 next year.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants him to play another year.
No. So anyway, me and Andrew tried to work out a trade. We just couldn't find a good happy medium. I wanted Gainwell. I would have loved to have added Gainwell. But we were looking at T. Higgins, at CeeDee Lamb, or not CeeDee Lamb. That's the other league. T. Higgins or Debo, or he wanted to find a deal for Saquon. And I wasn't opposed to trying to move one of these guys. Not Saquon.
You got to get a lot more than Gainwell.
But it was going to be Gainwell and maybe a pick or two, and it just wasn't enough for me to say, I'm going to move a 25-year-old Debo, a 22-year-old Higgins, a 24-year-old Saquon. I mean, all of these guys have dynasty value. A couple first-rounders for him at this point, the way Debo's playing. Higgins being young and has the upside. He was looking to move him for a wide receiver, and he did it. I just don't know that was the move he should have made. I think he should have held tight and shopped around a little more, and I think he could have gotten something better than Juju out of Gainwell, especially as the season goes on if Gainwell continues to get a bigger role.
Yeah, but to be fair, I have not stared down Andrew Leasack's team in a while, so I don't know what his need was, but our division can be up for grabs. We all kind of projected Andrew to be the one that comes out of it, I think, if I remember our early season projections right. So he's 2-2, and Underhill and Burns are 3-1. So definitely within striking distance of getting the division back under him. And if Juju's a piece that helps him do that, and Gainwell's not super doing anything for him this year, then fine. Like, it's a fine move, but it's just not exciting.
Right. So real quick, he's got Jonathan Taylor, Damian Harris, Zach Moss at running backs.
Who's his receivers?
Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Jones Jr., Brandon Ayuk, and Myers, Jacoby Myers. So he added Juju, which, I mean, if Ayuk becomes halfway decent and he's going to play, Myers has been okay.
Yeah.
So really, you're looking at Juju being that probably number. Marvin Jones, I'd play over Juju most weeks. So, I mean, Juju's really going to be that number 4, maybe number 5 receiver. I mean, it's not bad to have the depth, especially if you're going to make a run. And Gainwell hadn't come off of his taxi. He was still sitting down there, so he clearly didn't think he needed him. So it is what it is. But yeah, I think he's deep enough at wide receiver. He didn't necessarily need to make that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst trade I've ever seen, but I like the upside of Gainwell better than the just a guy Juju at this point. I think we all do.
Yep. All right. So then the last trade we're going to cover here, Boyer gives Tyler Boyd to Jeremy and Fryer, and Jeremy and Fryer give Boyer a 22 second. This is kind of a trade I like to see. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The value is there. Boyd has been doing well. Boyer really didn't need him at this point. Move him for some draft capital. Good good for you, Jeremy Fryer. Way to go get a guy, especially a guy that's looking halfway decent right now. So I'm good with this one. Value there works out for me.
Yeah, I don't have a solid gut feel on Tyler Boyd's value. 2020, a next year's second round pick feels fine to me. I don't know. He's an established receiver who is startable in most weeks. If you need a guy of that caliber, you don't feel bad about it. So if that's worth a second round pick, that's worth a second round pick. I don't have a good grasp on things yet. Jeremy and Fryer, I think, are one of the surprise 1 and 3 teams. So you imagine that hopefully their pick is a little bit higher up the round than we all were thinking it was going to be early in the season. We were projecting them for 9 or 10 wins. If they only get to 8, then that helps with that too. So
even then, second round, I mean, this year Rondale Moore went later, Fryermuth went later. I mean, some of those guys are halfway decent upside type guys. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, Trey Sermon fell, but you got Terrace Marshall, you got Gainwell, you got Kadarius Toney that went in the second. You got Rondale Moore that went in the late second. I mean, the second round, really, you start to throw a little bit of darts. I mean, you still got the top 20-ish players, but I'm good with being in the middle of that second round. You'll find the value there.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, all right. Let's get off trades and let's hit a little pow. What are you drinking? Andy, what are you working on tonight?
I am sipping a nice rye whiskey. Old Overholt is the name of the rye whiskey. I use it to make my Manhattans, but tonight I thought I would just drink it on the rocks.
Fair enough. I popped into the fridge and I went with a Hacker Short at night. So mixing it up a little bit. Classic easy wheat beer. Nothing fancy.
I like it.
So what we're going to do now is run down a little rookie breakdown. I'm going to have a little trivia for Andy and the rest of you clowns. And
you play along down there.
Play along down there. Yeah, Andy said it. Comment, like, subscribe, and click the bell. Do your thing. Maybe if you guys comment and like and subscribe, maybe you'll get more Triple D action over here. All right, so let's jump into this rookie breakdown. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to run through the first handful of starters, or first handful of rookies, their fantasy projection or their fantasy points up to date, what I would consider a startable week for a rookie at this point, or I guess just for anybody in that position. I've got wide receivers at 7. If they're above 7, I call it a startable week. Running backs around that 10-point mark is a startable week for me. That's what I'm looking for out of if I'm putting them in my RB2 spot, that's what I'm looking for. And then I don't believe I have anything for tight ends. So quarterbacks are at 15. Okay. Well, Kyle Pitts hasn't been that good, and Fryermuth hasn't really been playing yet. So there's that.
I mean, Kyle Pitts has been getting 4 or 5 points a week, which is more than a lot of tight ends can say.
Yeah, but he is currently down at number 15, and I didn't quite go that far.
That's fair. He's got
19 fantasy points from me.
Yeah, I'm looking for consistency because anybody can score a touchdown and be more than 19 points.
Yeah, Pat Fryermuth.
They're just doing it on your bench.
So Jamar Chase is our number 1 rookie right now. Burns drafted him at 102. He has 54 fantasy points, about 300 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Good.
He has had 4 startable weeks. He's at 15.9, 11.4, 18.5, and 7.7. So Burns should be starting him every week. Mack Jones is actually the number 2 overall fantasy guy. For rookies, 51 fantasy points. Him and Trevor Lawrence are tied at 51. Mack Jones was drafted at 311. Trevor Lawrence was drafted at 109. Mack Jones is just over 1,000 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He has 2 startable weeks. He has a 15-point week, a 7, an 11, and a 16. Trevor Lawrence went at the 109. He has 873 passing yards and 5 touchdowns, but he also has 1 on the ground. So that helps.
A shit ton of picks.
Yeah. So does Zach Wilson. We'll talk about him in a minute. But he's got 2 startable weeks, 1 at 19 and then 1 at 17, and the 2 in between were 6 and 7. So not great.
Yeah.
As a rookie quarterback, it is what it is, especially being on Jacksonville. Number 4 is Naji Harris, drafted at the 101 by Boyer. He's got 48 fantasy points, 185 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 178 receiving yards, and a touchdown. He has 3 startable weeks. Week 1 was just under 5 points. Week 2 was 14. Week 3 was 14. Week 4 was 15. He's only getting better at this point. Dude's looking good. Definitely a 101 pick, although Chase could have been a 101 at the rate he's moving. The current number 5, just because he's a quarterback, is Zach Wilson, drafted by me at 212. He has 41 fantasy points, 925 pass yards, 4 touchdowns, but 8 interceptions. He has technically 2 startable weeks, 1 at 18. Then he went for 2, 2, and 17. Not a startable guy. Number 6 is Gainwell, that just got traded away. He was drafted at 204 by Andrew, now with Colin Nolan. He has 34 fantasy points, 84 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, 114 receiving yards. He has 2 startable weeks. You could have started him week 1 or week 4 and been happy about it. He had 10 and 14. And then the 2 in the middle had 5 and 3. Trey Lance, drafted at 108 by Chris, acquired by me in a trade, has 31. He's played 3 games, has 1 rushing touchdown, 3 passing touchdowns, and he only has 1 above 15, which was last week, playing half a game at 20. Other than that, he had 4. He sat out. He had 6, but week 1 and week 3, he didn't really play. So the half a game he's played, he's been worth something. Devonta Smith was 8 overall, drafted by Boyer at the 107. 30 fantasy points. He's got 2 startable weeks, week 1 and week 4. Rondale Moore is at number 9. He's got 28 fantasy points, 1 startable week, week 2 at 17. Other than that, he's got 6.4 and 3.7. So not great, but a couple of them could have played. Javonte Williams is number 10. He went 104, 28 fantasy points. He has 1 startable game because he's a running back. I've got him over 10. He did have 7 points week 2, and he has almost 6 points week 4. Week 3, he went for 10.2. So if you're happy with the almost 6 and 7 points, it's not a bad thing for your flex. But based on my 10-point startability, he's got 1. Jalen Waddle is number 11. 24 fantasy points, has 1 startable week, week 1 at 12 points, and then he's gone for 2, 5, and 3 after that. Elijah Mitchell would be number 12, and he didn't even play the last 2 games. So that's where rookies are lying right now. Justin Fields is after that, followed by Trey Sermon, Kyle Pitts, and Chubba Hubbard. Most of these guys that have been playable at this point have been a 1st or 2nd round guy. You do have Elijah Mitchell at 309 and Mack Jones at 311. So those are our outliers at this point. But that'll round us out the top 16. Andy.
What's up?
I've got a question for you.
Can't wait.
How many of the drafted rookies are on a starting roster at this point? They've been taken. They don't have to be on the starter. They could be on the bench. They just are taken off the taxi.
Not on the taxi. Okay.
Just not on the taxi.
All right. I'm gonna say.
So I just named off 16 guys that have almost 20 fantasy points or more. Doesn't mean that all of them are off taxis, though.
I'm going to say 13.
Okay. So there are 10 that are on the roster. So not bad.
Okay.
Out of those 10 that have been on a roster, they've been taken off taxi, how many of those have started a week for a fantasy team?
Oh, interesting. Well, I've been playing Pitts and Javonte. Burns has been playing Chase. Boyer's been playing Naji, and I know he played Smith last week. So that's 5 right there. Fields has not been playing. Sermon probably got a start. Well, maybe not. Same with Waddle. I don't know. I'm going to say, so I got 5 for sure. I'm going to say 6 of the 10.
So your 5 were correct.
Is just those
That was
5?
it.
Wow.
Those 5 have started through 4 weeks.
Who's got Chuba Hubbard? Burns does? I'm surprised Burns didn't play him last week.
He is not even off the taxi squad yet.
Wow.
So there you go. Chuba's still riding the taxi. So real quick, there are so you mentioned 5. So Naji Harris has played all 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Chase has played 3. Pitts has played 4. Williams has played 4.
Devonta Smith has played just 1.
3.
Oh, Boyer started him 3 times. Wow. I figured it was just last week.
So Chase didn't play week. All right. So Najee got started week 1. Pitts got started week 1. Williams got started week 1. Chase got started week 2. Devonta got started week 2.
All right.
So out of 12 first rounders and 12 second rounders, which are really the guys we're looking at possibly starting right away, right?
Sure.
Only 7 of these total have been, or 5 of them total have been in the roster since before week 4. There are 2 currently on a week 5 roster. Justin Fields is one of them for Nolan.
Yeah, obviously he just moved Rodgers.
Right. You want to take a stab in the dark? It's a round 2 guy. You want to take a stab in the dark on who this might be? You can pull up the round.
I'm pulling up my round 2 guys. All right.
So for everybody else, round 2 is Elijah Moore, Trey Sermon, Terrace Marshall, Kenny Gainwell, Kadarius Toney, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tutu Atwell, Pat Fryermuth, Rondale Moore, De'Ami Brown, Chuba Hubbard, and Zach Wilson.
Well, it's not Rondale Moore because Mattoon doesn't need to play that guy for a few years. I'm going to guess Zach Wilson because it feels like a thing you would do.
No, it is not a thing I would do. I'm still playing Sam Darnold. It is Kadarius Toney is currently slated into Chris's roster.
Interesting. I mean, the Giants receivers are banged up, but I don't know that I'd be promoting Toney right away.
Right. So there are your 2 current week 5 starters. They might be changed at this point, but that's what I got. So out of all of this draft, there are a couple people that are outliers right now. In the top 20 total that I've kind of covered. All right. So I covered 16. There are a couple outliers here. Demetric Felton is in the top 20, and he was drafted round 5, pick 12. And Davis Mills, because he took over, is also in the top 20, round 6, pick 12.
Mr.
Not that
Irrelevant.
you're starting Mills. Right. Not that you're starting Mills or Felton, but they are currently in the top 20 rookies.
I mean, Boyer could probably trade Mills to Underhill for like a 3rd, maybe even a 2nd round pick.
Right.
So something to consider.
But those are the stats I got on rookies. I will keep tabs on when these guys come off of taxi, just for reference, and kind of try to keep tabs on how many weeks these guys start, just to see where rookies being drafted play into fantasy lineups. So
I like it.
That's what I got on that. So after our big rookie breakdown, Andy's going to hit us with a quick dad joke.
It's going to be a
and
short
if you've been
one.
listening, they're not always quick.
No, this one's going to be short. I promise. I got it off my page a day calendar this morning. It says, my dad once told me that if I wanted to make a difference in the world, I should put my money where my mouth is. He was right. I can really taste the change.
Nice.
Yeah. See? It was short. Not 5 minutes long. I hit 5 minutes on our one on Tuesday.
3.5 minute, 5 minute, and then about a 6-second one. Good work.
Yeah. I figured I'd mix it up for Dynasty. Fantasy guys, don't get used to it. I'm going to stick with my salty dog stories.
That's right. All right. So I'm going to run through a quick preseason projection, and then we're going to kind of run through where everybody's at this point. All right. So the top division, we had me. I had me at 8. Boyer had me at 8. Andy had me at 7. I am currently at 1-3. Not a great start to the season. We had Matt. I had him at 8. Boyer had him at 8. Andy had him at 10. He is currently 3-1.
Good work, Matt.
McCaffrey,
make me proud.
McCaffrey could be coming back, and he could be fine. We had Chris at 6, 6, and 7. Chris is currently 2-2. He has played the softest matchup so far. So I'm not sure that that's going to hold, but he got 2 off the start. We'll see what happens from here. We had Boyer projected at 10, 10, and 10 across the board, and Boyer is currently at 1-3 with me. We had this division projected as the toughest division, minus maybe Jeremy Fry and Mattoon combination of the bottom division, but overall the top division was supposed to be the toughest, and we are currently sitting tied with the Colin division for record, and the middle division is actually the best right now. So, well, record-wise.
Yeah, if you look at points scored, though.
Right. All right, so let's jump to Underhill here. We had Underhill. I had him at 6. Boyer had him at 7. Andy had him at 8. Underhill is currently 3-1. Good work,
Good
Underhill.
work.
Bernsey. I had him at 8. Boyer had him at 5. Andy had him at 8. Boyer was super concerned about the quarterback situation that was happening there with Deshaun Watson and whatnot. Drop Bernsey down, although Bernsey had a good team. Boyer was just low on him. Bernsey is currently sitting at 3-1. Good start to the season, Burns. Andy, I had him at 4. Boyer had him at 4, and Andy has himself at 2 to start the season. And
Nailed it.
Andy is currently sitting 2-2. So, Andy, I don't know what you're doing over there, but you were supposed to be losing games.
I've been trying. Tell that to the other people. Also, DJ Moore. People keep coming and asking me about DJ Moore, and I'm like, guys, he's like 23. Like, just because I have a good player and I'm trying to lose this year doesn't mean I'm giving him to you. He's young. It's a dynasty league. I'm going to build around him.
Exactly how I feel about my whole roster being an average age of 22.7 or something like that.
Yeah, nobody's coming to ask me about Chase Edmonds. Yeah, you could have Chase Edmonds. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you want James Conner, I got him too. He's a goal line guy. Take him now.
2 touchdowns a week these last 2 weeks.
Right, take him. James Conner's yours for the price, if the price is right.
Yeah, first and a second. Mack Jones prices over here.
That's right. Nobody offered me anything for Zach Wilson right after Mack Jones went. I said he was on the table for that price. All right. Colin Mattoon. I had him at 10. Boyer and Andy both had him at 11 in preseason rankings. Colin Mattoon is currently at 3-1. Probably could have won last week, but didn't. So, whatever. You can afford a loss there, man.
It'll be okay.
Colin Kelly. We had him at 6 across the board wins, and he is currently 2-2. I'm not sure that this is going to hold, but he's off to a good start. So, Colin Nolan, we might be overshooting at this point, but I had him at 4. Boyer had him at 6, and Andy had him at 3. So I think Colin Nolan's going to end closer to that 3 to 4 win mark where me and Andy have him.
Yeah, I think that Boyer didn't think he was going to sell. He was like, his team's okay. And I was like, have you talked to this guy? He would sell if he was winning.
Yeah, and the problem is he did buy a couple players and was trying to make his team better.
Sure.
And now he's selling again. So I don't know where he's at.
Yeah, buying Mixon, I think, got him all panicky about not having first-round picks for the next ever. So he's been trying to find those since then.
Yeah. So we got Jeremy and Fryer. I had him at 10, tied with Mattoon. Boyer and Andy both had him at 9. They are currently at 1 and 3. So the teams that we had in the playoffs were Mattoon. Across the board, we had Mattoon, Boyer, Andrew as the leaders. Me and Andy have Jeremy and Fry as the wild card in preseason rankings, and Boyer has Matt as the preseason wild card. That's looking a lot nicer than me and Andy's Jared Fry wild card right now. But if you look at it, we projected Boyer to be winning our division, and he's currently 1 and 3. We had me as a halfway decent team, and I'm currently 1 and 3. We had Jeremy and Fryer at that 9 to 10 win mark, and they are currently 1 and 3. Andrew to win that division, and he's down at the bottom at 2 and 2 as well. So our preseason predictions are not looking great to start. We are only 4 weeks in. There's a long season ahead of us.
Yeah, the difference between 1 and 3 and 3 and 1 is just it's all in the schedule. I mean, over a full season, it normally balances out, but at this point, I mean, I don't think Chris would be 2 and 2 if he didn't have the schedule he had.
He beat me on me putting up a 60-point week. So
yeah, shouldn't have done that. Don't do that. I don't recommend 60-point weeks if you can help.
No, especially with 3 wide receivers, there's no reason I should be going under 70 points.
Agreed.
Are there any other major surprises here that you're seeing? Are you shocked that Underhill's leading that division?
I think
he's got an older team, so
yeah. Which I mean, if you've got an older team, you better hope you're winning right now, because it ain't gonna get any younger. I'm surprised by the slow starts of Boyer and the Jer Fry duo. The teams that are doing well aren't overly surprising. I picked Matt for 10 wins. He's 3 and 1. I picked Mattoon for 11 wins. He's 3 and 1. Underhill and Burns, I both had an 8. 8 wins would be an 8 and 7 record. So them being 3 and 1 isn't that far off. They're over 500. I mean, 4 weeks is also a weird time to take the sample, because like the difference between 3 and 1 and 2 and 2 feels like a whole lot, because there's only so many ways to be over 500. But it's only one game. So
well, and it's tough because like we've said before, the rosters don't change near as much, except for this week. Things went crazy. But I think over the next couple of weeks, we don't see near as many trades until things do kind of space themselves out. Once you start seeing, if I lose the next couple of weeks, problem is like I said, I don't have a lot of people to sell. Andrew, if he loses a couple more weeks, maybe he moves a guy or two.
Yeah, I'm curious to see Andrew and Burns duke it out for the middle division, but with Burns buying Rodgers and Waller, you know, if that gap gets more than 1 or 2 games, then we'll see what Andrew decides to do. I'm also expecting Boyer to try to make an ad here if somebody's selling, to get his team a little boost and catch back up to Matt. Same with Jeremy and Fryer, but they've moved a handful of picks already, so I don't know how much they've got left to be trying to make a move. But they added Tyler Boyd. They're doing what they can. They're trying to manage their team smart. And they're pretty solid looking win now type of team. So I expect their team to turn it around even if they don't add anybody.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens from here. But for the most part, it's too early to tell what's going to happen. There's plenty of weeks to go. I think 2 more weeks is really going to be that decisive factor of who buys, who sells, and really makes that playoff push.
Hey, Kamish, do we have a trade deadline?
I believe it's week 11 or 12.
Okay, I was just curious.
I would have to go double check, but yes, we do have a trade deadline, just as the NFL does. I mean, we're not selling people into playoffs.
I think that's fair. I just don't remember seeing it, and I don't know where to go to check that in Sleeper, so I was curious.
I would have to check it, and I could get back to you. I have not gotten that far.
All right, well, maybe tell the league. Comment below, Mr. Commissioner. When's our trade deadline? Check the comments. Like his comment. I don't know how YouTube works. I just know that everybody else says to do that, and apparently it helps us get more famous or more faster. Or...
Yeah, I mean, really, just subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when we post, and that's really all I care about.
Where's the bell? How's the bell work?
There's a little bell next to the subscribe button, and if you click it, it'll notify you when something gets posted.
Oh, Boyer usually notifies me when something gets posted.
Well, yes, and we notify the league, but if they want it before I notify them, they could click the bell just in case.
Oh, I see it. Hey, there's a bell there, guys. Go check that. That's a cool little thing.
There's lots of fun things on YouTube. But on that note, I guess let's see how the next couple weeks pan out. We'll come back at you guys once things happen. We'll give you a couple weeks to figure out how to sell players, figure out how to win games. I'll keep tabs on rookies, and we'll come back at you in a couple weeks with some more updates.
Yep,
Anything else, Andy?
I would just say the important thing is the more trades there are, the more that we're going to come back here and talk about them. So make unnecessary trades, guys.
That's right. Fair enough. On that, we're out, and we'll catch you guys in a couple weeks. See ya.